This is Jay Scott. I absolutely live and breathe hunting and fishing. I spend more than half the year in the field enjoying God's creation. I've been a professional hunter and guide since the late 90s, and over the years I've been on amazing hunting and fishing adventures that have resulted in many memories, trophies, and wild game dining. I've authored numerous magazine articles that have been featured in Western big game hunting publications and served for 3 years as a judge for the World Championship Elk Calling Contest. I've operated a successful hunting and fishing blog, YouTube channel, and other social media platforms since 2008. You can get all the photos, videos, and content at jscottoutdoors.com. The goal of this podcast is to educate and inform by covering all sorts of topics ranging from tactics, preparation, field judging, calling, scouting, and gear, as well as regular updates on all our hunting and fishing trips throughout the year. Now let's get to the show.
We are somewhere in the middle of Sonora, Mexico with Jay Scott. We just rolled in looking for our first Goulds gobbler. We're going to try to roost a bird, get on one tonight, and be ready to get set up on him in the morning. Awesome. May 1st, 2014. Getting ready to open up Gould season in Mexico. We slipped in here late trying to roost a bird, and we bumped into one in a little meadow. So we're just sitting up on the side of what we would call a big hill in Mississippi. Just heard another bird gobble, so we feel good about where we are. There goes another one. Those are just hopping up in there. There goes another one and another one. See him? Yep. We just flew up. Oh, look at that, man. Did you see that tail? Yeah. Look at that. One sitting right on top. Yeah. Well, we've got somewhere between 20 and 100 of them in the same tree. We think we've got 20 of them in the same tree, and they've all gone to bed for the night. Now we just got to figure out which side to set up on before daylight in the morning. So Jay's going to stay up all night and analyze that, and we're going to get some good rest.
I don't know how many of them are up there, but I can't count that high, I don't think.
Even a banker can't count that high, right?
That tree is full of turkeys. That's what I call a sunrise service.
Yes, sir. That was awesome. Let's go check out your bird. Let's go look.
That was good.
They were right in your lap, weren't they?
Man, they were right in our face. The gobbler came by 10 feet from me.
Congratulations. That's awesome. Look at this face.
That's great.
Was that incredible?
That was incredible. They were just everywhere on us.
How about that? I mean, the first thing I heard was, you know,
And
it
they
was
were
crazy.
And
I'm
they
thinking,
were making some racket.
this turkey's going to land on my head, and he nearly did.
Well, guys, that was an awesome morning. We roosted these birds last night, and we watched them walk across this ridge and fly up in that tree. And we made a plan to get in here on this side of them. And boy, they started flying down. I thought, I better do something. I made a couple calls, but I don't think it mattered.
They were calling so much.
Yeah, they flew right to us.
They were making some noise.
Yeah, and then they were all around Tally. I mean, they were 7, 8, 10 feet from you at times.
Yeah.
I was nervous that they were too close, you know, and if they were going to have seen me.
This one hen over here saw me move the camera or something. She got kind of spooked and bumped a little bit, but they settled back down. You know?
And then I'm glad you shot when you did, because the hens were getting by me, and
They were starting to move. Well, they were starting to move away. I knew that there was this gobbler that came by me 10 feet. I knew he was back this way somewhere. I had lost sight of him.
Yeah.
But this one was further over. He was probably 35 yards.
That's awesome.
Going the other way. And when he stuck his head up, I thought it was time to get on with the program. Get on with the program.
Well, you guys completed your royal slams this morning, and couldn't be happier.
Thanks, brother. We appreciate you.
Good job.
Thank you,
Great
Jay.
job.
Great
awesome. Was that an unbelievable hunt or what? Welcome to the J. Scott Outdoors podcast, episode number 2. This is a Goulds turkey hunt, as you just heard, from Mexico. I've got Greg Ray and Tally Rydell, who came down in spring of 2014 in May, hunted with me. They were my first trip of the year down there, and we just had an awesome time. They were able to fulfill their royal slams that morning, and they still had a tag each in their pocket, and we had a great hunt that afternoon, which you're going to hear later on the show. Greg is just a phenomenal guy, and Tally as well, and it's just good to meet guys. They're from Mississippi, and never met them before, but we just seemed like we just made a great friendship, and I actually got to see those guys last week at the National Wild Turkey National Convention in Nashville, Tennessee, and so it was great seeing them. And I just want to thank all the listeners for tuning in. We're excited about episode number 2. We're excited about what we're going to be doing here with this podcast. And, if you have any questions about any type of hunting or fishing, related topics, you can email them to me at jscottoutdoors@gmail.com, and I'll try and answer them the best that I can. But today we're going to talk about Gould's turkeys, and I've got Greg here. Greg, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Are you trying to thaw out? I hear a little bit of a cold snap's hit your way down there.
Well, it has. It's been a lot colder the last 6 weeks or so than we're accustomed to in Mississippi. But the great news is the month of February is about gone, and in 3 weeks we'll be opening spring turkey season here in Mississippi.
Right on. Yeah, that's. I saw you last week at the NWTF convention in Nashville. It was good to see you guys.
Yeah, that's a great event. For anybody who hasn't been there, it's worth doing at least once in a lifetime. And I would say that most folks, if they ever do attend, they'll want to go back. It's a heck of a show. Yeah.
What calls did you end up getting, or did you find any little nuggets that you liked?
I bought a trumpet yelper. I have made a wing bone call myself and called up one turkey with it last year.
But I bought a trumpet yelper that was actually made by a gentleman from here in Mississippi. He's an instructor at Delta State University, a man named William Lester. And I bought one of his calls, and then I bought 2 box calls, a David Halloran box call that sounds really good. And
what color was that one? Was that the black one he was selling? He had a real dark one, or do you remember what color the wood was?
Yeah, he had one made out of ebony and poplar, which is the one I think you're talking about.
Okay.
Tally actually bought one of those, and I bought a Purple Heart and I can't remember the other wood, but the lid was made out of Purple Heart. It's a good looking call. The ebony lid call is a little bit louder, and I was looking for something kind of more of a mid-range sound, and so that's the reason I bought the Purple Heart. But cedar actually is the other wood.
Oh, cedar, okay. Did you leave with the call, or was he shipping that to you?
No, I left with it. I tried several standing there at his booth, and he and his wife both ran, 5 or 6 different box calls, and we settled in on the one that I walked away with. And then I ordered.
She's a heck of a caller. She's a heck of a caller on box and the slate. I mean, he's fantastic, and she's really good.
Yeah, they're both really good callers, and it's amazing the number of good callers that you bump into at the NWTF show. There's some folks that can make a box call, a slate, whatever, stand up and dance. It's fun to listen to it all.
Absolutely. And then you got one more box?
I did. I ordered a call from Albert Paul, who is from Collinsville, Mississippi. I've known about him for years and years, and I think a lot of folks who are serious turkey hunters know about Albert's calls. I ordered a short box that is an ebony lid and a holly, holly frame. But he told me I should have it in about 60 days, so hopefully I'll have it in time to hunt with it before our season closes 1st of May.
Yeah, I got in 2012, I was at the show, NWTF show, and I got a call from Albert, and I really like it. Just a great man. He can really make a box call sing, too.
Yeah, it's amazing, these guys that make these calls, to watch them operate their box calls, because they look so relaxed, and you can tell that their hands are very practiced at operating those box calls. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, one thing, I was there with Casey Brooks and his son Bo, and they got a couple of Albert's box calls and David Halloran's, actually both. One thing Albert was showing us, he likes to hold the box way down towards so if the paddle of the call would be up, and the lowest portion of the box, he holds it with his left hand, but not in the middle of the call, if that makes sense. He holds it way back, kind of towards your body, as underneath, and he says that it balances the call quite a bit better. And Bo and Casey both tried it, and it was pretty cool to see how quick actually it did balance in their hands. So that was a little tip that I picked up from him. But he's a fantastic guy. He's been doing it so long, and when I was there in 2012, I asked him, you going to go turkey hunting? He says, yeah, I should be able to kill about 18 birds this year. And so this year I asked him, I said, you going turkey hunting? He said, yep, we're hooking up the fifth wheel and doing our same routine, and I should get 18 or 19 birds. So it sounds like he makes a big circuit.
It sounds like it. I would love to be able to do that one of these days. Hopefully there will be a day and time that I can do that.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Well, Greg, let's talk a little bit about our Goulds turkey hunt last year. I think it'll be fun to kind of reminisce about how everything went down, starting from, arriving and, us talking on the phone prior. And you guys were able to complete your Royal Slams. And so tell me from your perspective how everything started and how everything went last year.
Well, I tell you, Jay, it's kind of an unusual story, I guess, and I don't know that you and I have ever even really talked about this. I I've been turkey hunting for 15 years. I got started late in life. I was 34 years old when I started turkey hunting, and I don't know that, certainly early on, I don't know that I ever had any objective of trying to, kill all 4 of the subspecies in the 48 states, and certainly had never thought about a Royal or a World Slam. But over the years, had an opportunity to hunt Miriam's with a friend. Had an opportunity to hunt Rios, and the next thing you knew, we were planning an Osceola hunt. And I killed my Osceola in the spring of 13 to finish, I guess, a lifetime Grand Slam. Never have done it or attempted to do it all in one season, but sure. I never really had the Goulds or the Oscillated on my mind, even after I finished my Grand Slam. And I was just kind of surfing on the web looking at elk hunting opportunities in Arizona, and that's how I came across your website. And in looking at all of the different hunts that you have done in the past for sheep and elk and turkeys and so forth, I kind of got interested in chasing a Gould's turkey. And my hunting buddy, Tally Riddell, and I were coming back home on the last weekend of duck season in 2014, and we started talking about turkey season, and we kind of started kicking around the idea of trying to do a Gould's hunt, and that resulted in the email to you, and I guess the rest, as they say, is history.
It was fairly historic. I think our trip was pretty legendary, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. It was a great time. Clearly, you do a great job on your website of showing the videos of different hunts that you've done in the past, and it's important to me. We've been on a lot of different hunts with a lot of different outfitters, and we've only had one experience that I would call bad. And that was because the gentleman that we went with really was not a turkey hunting operator. He had turkeys on his property from time to time, but he just really didn't understand enough about what the birds were doing and so forth. So I wouldn't even really consider that his fault, but it just was not what we would expect in a turkey hunt. And seeing your videos made a big difference for us. And then, of course, talking to you on the phone for the hours that we did visit before we decided to come down and hunt with you made all the difference in the world. And, I don't know whether most hunters have any apprehension about going into Mexico these days. Certainly there's a lot of press and notoriety about the state of affairs down there. But, you and I talked about any challenges related to travel down there, and you reassured me that you've taken your wife down there for years and years deer hunting, and that you've never had any sort of issue or never felt uncomfortable down there. That's exactly what we found.
Yeah.
And
so you guys flew right into Tucson, and then you guys rented a car, right? And then we met in Douglas.
We did.
Tell me about that transition, how smooth everything was.
Oh, it was simple. The car rental, everything about the car rental and baggage worked fine in Tucson, and it was simple to get to the interstate, and not a bad trip to Douglas. I don't recall exactly how long it took us to get down there. Hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe something like that.
Yeah, hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah,
exactly.
And you were right where you told us you would be when you told us you would be there, and we got everything loaded up in your truck, and you obviously have been through customs and dealt with border security on both sides of the border, and dealt with the police and the military in Mexico in transitioning shotguns and that sort of thing, and that was a seamless process. It takes a little bit of time, as you would expect, dealing with that much law enforcement, but it all went just as smoothly as we could have hoped for.
Yeah, so if I remember correct, last year you guys were my first group of the year, and we met up, and then we arrived. Typically what I have the hunters do is we meet up kind of mid-morning. that puts us crossing, and then we typically get to the ranch around 2 or 3, 4 o'clock, whatever it may be, and then we go out and try and roost birds. Seems like we had a good night that first night, roosting some birds. What do you recollect?
Yeah, we did. We actually, I think we got down to the ranch a little bit later than we intended to that afternoon, and I think it was because of our timing with flights, and I guess just and being the first group, I think we did some setup once we got to the ranch and helped get some of your equipment unloaded and that sort of thing, and we actually got to the spot that we were wanting to look and listen. Maybe an hour before it got dark?
Yeah, we walked up on that little hill and tried to spot some turkeys, and I think you spotted one right off the bat.
Yeah, I just got lucky and caught a glimpse of a gobbler's head kind of going through a gap in some.
What, down there about like 400 yards?
Yeah, something like that.
500?
Kind of a brushy little flat down there, and he just happened to step in an opening, and I got a good look at him just for a 2 count as he walked through this little opening. And so we sat down and started glassing, and finally picked up, the whole flock. I guess they were getting ready to go to roost, and they kind of walked up the side of a mountain and paralleled a wash type area, and then started flying off the side of the mountain and flew straight up in the roost from there. And it was 20 or 25 turkeys, gobblers and hens, that all flew up in the same tree.
Well, I still remember that sight of those birds up there, and they're such big birds, and up there on those limbs, they were wobbling around and trying to get a solid position, and they're kind of jockeying for position too up in the tree. But people can go on my website or go on YouTube and see at gouldsturkeyhunt.com or jscottoutdoors.com or on YouTube and see exactly what we're talking about. So we had birds roosted, and then we came back to the ranch house that night, and then seems like we talked back and forth about what we thought would be the best way to set up on those birds, and then what happened?
Well, we left. I don't know exactly what time it was that we left the house the next morning, but it was very early because we knew we needed to get. We had a long way to go, first of all, and we knew we needed to get set up in the black dark because we were going to be pretty close to the roost. We were 150 yards from their roost tree.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a lot of cover between where we set up and them. So it was a pretty direct, eye shot or eye contact between, where we were situated and the roost tree. But,
and they were roosted up in that big black oak, the biggest black oak there in that bottom, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we kind of scattered out. We had drawn straws and decided that Tally was going to take the first shot, and so we got him set up in a pretty good spot. And he basically was sitting there with his gun on his knee, looking down the barrel from the time we sat down on the ground in the dark, until the time he finally killed a turkey. And you were kind of set up over his right shoulder with a camera, and then I got off to the left 40 or 50 yards across a little rock wash, and got situated, kind of under some low scrub brush. And I had my camera running from over there, so we kind of had two angles of it. And, I don't know how much of it's skill and how much of it's luck, but we were sitting in the right place when they decided to fly down.
If I remember right, they gobbled good that night and that morning. They were really cutting loose up on the limb. Yeah,
the first turkey sound that I heard that morning was a gobble, and it was way before light enough really for a turkey to be gobbling. But they started up in the black dark, and they gobbled in the tree for 15 or 20 minutes, I guess, before they started flying down.
Yeah, that's one thing. A lot of the hunters that hunt Goulds with me, they're they ask me, well, do the Goulds gobble? Do you hear them? And I just kind of smile because they really like to gobble. So it makes a real interactive hunt. So so it's getting light, and they're about to fly down, and what happens?
Well, I think turkeys were starting to fly down, but it was still so dark that I could not see, the 40 or 50 yards over there, on that little flat where we had the decoys in front of Tally. I still could not see well enough because the light was so low. I could not see well enough to tell what was really going on over there. I knew where the decoys were. I knew where I thought some turkeys were starting to fly down, but I just couldn't tell. And so looking back at all of our video, I think we probably had, 10 or 12 turkeys on the ground over there. And then at that time, I heard the rush of air. One of the gobblers left the roost, and as soon as his feet cleared the limb, I could hear air rushing, 60, 70.
Like a 747.
Exactly. 60 or 70 yards behind me, and this turkey, flew out, sailed out, and he came literally 6 feet over my head and lit, 10 yards in front of me. And as soon as his toes touched the ground, he went into a strut. And he's spinning around in circles, dragging his wings in the sand in front of me. And, I think
literally you could have jumped up and grabbed him. That would have been maybe as effective as trying to shoot him with a shotgun.
Well, just about. Yeah, he was definitely too close to shoot at with a shotgun at that point. But he twirled around on my side of the wash for 2 or 3 minutes, and by then it was starting to get light enough that you could kind of see what was going on across the wash, and that's where all the action was. And what we had probably 15 hens and 4 or 5, mature gobblers over in that bunch, doing their thing, trying to sort things out for the morning and figure out who was in charge and where are we going. And so this big gobbler on my side decided he would drag his way on over there, and he did. And he walked within 10 feet of Tally. When he came up out of the wash, he walked right past Tally sitting there with his gun on his knee. And, the turkeys chased each other around and, fought a little bit and argued a little bit. And there was a lot of calling going on. And it was just a cool thing to see. You got some of the best video footage I've ever seen in my life of, the turkeys leaving the roost and coming, just straight into you, like you say, like 747s.
And then the Mississippi SWAT team showed up and kind of put a silence on the program there for a bit.
Yeah, we did. Tally finally, the turkeys kind of started settling down and kind of acted like they were going to start drifting off away from us. And so he finally got a clear shot at one of the big gobblers, and he put him down at 35 or 40 yards. And when they scattered, it coincidentally was the gobbler that landed right in front of me, spun around and ran back towards his roost tree. And just before he ran across the wash, he decided, I think I'm gonna stick my head up and look one more time, be sure which direction I need to go. And so I let him have it. So we finished our royal slams within, literally 5 seconds of each other right there the first morning.
That was awesome. Now, you guys had 2 tags apiece, so we filled 2 tags that morning, and then, if I remember right, we took some photos and headed back to the house, and we made some breakfast, and I think we took care of the birds.
Yeah,
is that what you recall?
Yeah, we did. I think we decided to put the birds in the freezer.
Yeah.
Until we could know, we were trying to figure out if we were going to bring any back to be mounted and that sort of thing. So I think we took them and put them in a big chest type freezer so that they would stay fresh. And also on the way back to the house that morning, Jay, you took us around the ranch and we saw some of the most terrific scenery, that you could ever want to see. I mean, it's a desert mountain area, and, for folks like us, it was a sight to behold, to get up on top of some of those mountains and to see just for miles and miles and miles, and, had a great time doing that.
It's definitely beautiful country down there. It's, until you really go, pictures and video try and do it a little bit of justice, but it just doesn't seem like it truly captures how cool it is down there. If I remember right, so we go back, we eat lunch, and then you guys wanted to take some hot showers and get cleaned up, and I think we took a nap, and then we were headed out for the afternoon. Is that exactly how you recall it?
That's close. The showers were somewhere short of lukewarm, and we had a temporarily incapacitated hot water heater, I think. But
we had a small glitch in the system.
You know, sometimes a fast shower is a good thing, and but it all worked out fine. And I actually have had a colder shower. I was in a bow hunting camp down in South Texas 25 years ago, and we took some showers that were colder than the ones we had in Mexico. So,
well, the good news is we didn't waste much water.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. But no, I know that there's hot water at the camp there, but they were just having a difficulty the day that we were there, and so it worked out fine. But we rested up and looked at a lot of video, I think, in the middle of the day, and then we headed back out.
Yeah, we headed back out in the similar area where those birds were, just around the corner. There was a nice big meadow where usually in the afternoons they come filing through there, and so I thought it'd be a good place to set up. And so it was probably, I'm guessing, 3:30. At that point we got 2 birds down and we got 3 days. It's like, we probably could have kept pounding that morning and been done before noon. But I thought the best way, the most effective and best plan would be to, put the decoys out and get a good show. So we sat in that meadow, and let's see, Tally was to my left and you were just to my right, and we put the decoy out, and that Dave Smith strutter with the real tail fan and real wings, and then I hooked it up on some strings, which turned out to be an interesting proposition. And then what did we sit there? What do you recall? We sat there for maybe an hour?
It was an hour at the most, I would say. The strings on the decoy wings is one of the neatest tricks I've ever seen. I had never seen that before. But I mean, you can move the decoy just like a puppet. Yeah. And, you can.
So, I mean, from 100 yards, it would fool a human. It's private land. There's nobody else hunting. I feel safe to use them there. But I mean, if you were just walking across that meadow at 100 yards, unless you had your binos, and even if you had your binos and I started moving that thing around, I mean, it could fool anybody.
Absolutely.
If they thinking it was a real turkey.
As it turned out, we had a gobbler come up to the decoy, and we got high definition video of this turkey from 15 yards from 2 different angles. And when the turkey is standing still and the decoy is right there, they're almost touching, you can't tell which one's a turkey and which one's the decoy. Yeah. I mean, it is the most realistic looking decoy I've ever seen in my life, by far.
Yeah, and you throw the real tail fan and the real wings on there. It's spitting image. So I was doing some calling, and I think we heard some birds off in the distance. And then what happened? Yeah,
I mean, we had been kind of sitting there, and we were just relaxed. We were in a pretty good setup that was real comfortable, and we were just kind of relaxed and enjoying the shade. And there was a little bit of breeze every now and then, and I guess we heard a hen yelp up on top of the mountain behind us.
Mm-hmm.
And you and I looked at each other, kind of like, did we really hear what we thought we heard? And then about that time, we heard another yelp. And so we knew that, that there were turkeys up the hill behind us. And, it was not long. I mean, less than a minute maybe? Mm-hmm. And we've got turkeys airborne flying off the mountain behind us, kind of over our shoulder, over our right shoulder, heading out in front of us, away from us. And they land out on top of the next hill out there, 150, 200 yards in front of us?
Yeah, so they basically fly from the west to the east, right over the top of the meadow that we're sitting in.
Yep.
The whole flock.
Yeah, like 12 birds?
Yeah.
And so they they land out on the hillside across in front of us, and then they immediately kind of start picking their way down the hill towards us. And you called a couple of times, and I kind of lost sight of them. They kind of got down below a screen of brush in front of us, and I kind of lost sight of them. And I don't know, another minute or two kind of clicked by, and then we look up, and here's more turkeys coming from the same direction, flying off from behind us. And one of those birds sees the decoy and just made about a 45-degree bank to his left and landed, 30 yards from the decoys, and immediately went into a strut and gobbled.
What was so amazing about that is, I'm watching them out of the corner of my right eye because they're coming from my right to left, kind of over the top of you and I see them mid-air, and the decoy's out in the meadow, but until he got above the decoy, he probably couldn't see it. But it was clear as day that he saw the decoy and just banked in there
and reacted. It was just like a duck decoying when they see the decoys. He just and he lost altitude precipitously.
Yeah.
He
basically fell right out of the sky once he saw, there's a tom strutting in my meadow. He hit the brakes and was on the ground in no time.
Yeah, he landed so hard, I don't know how it didn't break his legs. He just
and immediately gobbled.
Yep, as soon as he hit the ground, he gobbled, and when he did, you knew what was going to happen. He would have fought in the air had he been able to do it, and so I think if the decoy would have been 30 more yards out, I think he would have landed right into the decoy. But at the velocity that he was going, he basically stopped as fast as he could. Yeah, he did.
But, I have no doubt that if, the decoy was a little bit further over where he landed, he would have landed right into the thing, and it would have been on.
Yeah, it was amazing. And he gobbled that one time as soon as he hit the ground, and, here he came. And you knew what was coming, and so he had to make his way through just a little row of low bushes, and he did that and broke out in the open about 35 yards in front of us, and the decoy was about 15 yards in front of us, and he did not make a circle. He came straight to the decoy, and you could hear him purring. He was already mad, before he ever got to the decoy. And he was purring, and he circled the decoy 3 or 4 times, and he purred, and he strutted, and he drummed, and he gobbled again a time or two, and he circled that gobbler decoy, I don't know, 2 or 3 times, and then finally he jumped on him and spurred him, and when he did that, his feet got tangled up, in that string that you had attached to both of his wings.
Uh-huh.
And so
that was a sight to see him all confused. He couldn't figure it out, could he?
No. And he's kind of halfway tripping and halfway stumbling, trying to get his foot out of the string. And at the same time, every time he takes a step or moves, he's bumping that decoy, that he's pulling on that decoy string, and it's making the decoy spin. And so he's just getting even madder, because the decoy's not leaving. And it was pretty interesting. And when he finally, I guess there was one time he kind of went around the back of the decoy and was coming towards me, facing me, and had his foot all hung up, and he was trying to step out of that string, and he turned around. He was still in full strut the whole time. And then he finally turned back the other direction with his fan facing me, and that's when I was able to get my gun up on him. And I said, well, when he turns around the next time, I'm going to shoot him. And he took another step or two going away from me, and he got so tangled up, he nearly fell down. You can see it on the video. He literally nearly fell down. But then he managed to get free from the string, and he turned back towards me and took a couple of more steps, and that's when we let him have it. And
seems like I remember about half of his feathers ending up in the air.
Yeah, he was in full strut, but we kind of joked about it at camp that night. I just felt that there was a moral obligation that he had done his part to put on a pretty big show, and I just felt like it was the right time to shoot him. So I shot him head on in full strut, and most of his back feathers stayed there in the meadow. But it made for pretty good video. And then heck, all the other birds that had flown over, they had made their way down in, they were within 100 yards of us, and I never saw them. Once I lost sight of them when they came off that far mountain, I had lost sight of them. But my birds are laying out there on the ground, not flopping very much at all. But I guess you or Tally
I was fighting purr kind of to them, and here they came.
And so you called, and then you started calling some more, and I said, Jay sees another turkey. And so I kind of craned my neck around and looked, and sure enough, that whole bunch was coming our way. And I guess there were 2 or 3, more mature gobblers with that bunch. It was a bunch of hens and a couple of big gobblers, and darn if they didn't come dragging up there, and Tally wound up killing one. So we had all 4. Yeah. I mean, it's the end of the first day, and we've killed every turkey we came down to Mexico to kill.
Now we're checking to see if we can go, deep sea fishing, or we're trying to figure out what to do next. Here we got 4 birds down on the first day. Yeah, that's a day, with all that excitement and having that much success and just the way everything went down. Definitely, we've all shot a lot of birds, but that day, I don't know that I'll ever forget that day.
Well, I surely won't. Good turkey hunts, exciting turkey hunts. It's hard to forget any of them, but that's one that just really, sticks out in my mind. I mean, there's just, we don't get that opportunity to see that kind of country every day. And, to be sitting there with the sun kind of slowly going down, and a breeze blowing, and you're sitting in the shade, and you got these turkeys out here doing anything and everything you wish you could get a turkey to do. It was a pretty special hunt.
Yeah, it's awesome. And then Tally ended up getting his bird mounted in a hanging mount. Is that what you call it? It turned out beautiful.
Yeah, a dead mount or hanging mount, and it did turn out great. We've used a taxidermist in Trinidad, Colorado a couple of times. I've got a big Osceola standing here right next to me as we speak that he mounted for me, and he does a great job. And
that's is it Todd Hoffman, the Birdman?
Yep, Todd Hoffman, Birdman Studios in Trinidad, Colorado. He does a great job. He does. I'm not sure, he may do birds exclusively, but he does great work on turkeys, on ducks and geese and that sort of thing.
Yeah, well, that was an awesome trip, and it was nice to, we were able to get a bunch of great photos. Obviously, we got great video of the hunt, and the camaraderie of the hunt was just awesome. And so we had a couple of days to kill, and we just had fun and kind of scouted around here and there. And then it was so great to hear from you guys before the NWTF this year, and then get to meet up at the convention and see you guys. What do you guys have planned for this year? Are you staying local, or what's your plan?
Well, we're gonna hunt here locally, but we're also planning. We've been to Oklahoma to hunt Rios the last 5 years in a row, and we're gonna do that again. That'll be the week after Easter.
Nice. Is that a 1-bird or 2-bird state? How does that work?
It's 2 birds. And then we're also going to go, and really that's in far western Oklahoma near the Texas Panhandle. And we've met another guy that has a farm in the Texas Panhandle, about 60 miles from where we hunt in Oklahoma. So we're going to bounce from Oklahoma over into Texas and hunt over there for a few days. And we can kill 4 turkeys in Texas. Typically, we just do a 2-bird hunt, but you can kill up to 4. So we're gonna this year we're just gonna kind of play that by ear, and we may kill 1, we may kill 4 in Texas,
nice.
But we're looking forward.
Are you guys driving up there? Or are you gonna fly?
Yeah, we're gonna drive. It's a long drive, but it just it just seems to work for that trip. So that's what we're gonna do. It's about 750 miles from here.
So your opener in Mississippi will be the 15th of March?
Yeah, it's actually the 14th this year because of the way that weekend falls. Typically, Mississippi season opens on the 15th of March and closes on May the 1st. But I guess this year, since the 15th of March is on a Sunday, they're just going to go ahead and back it up one day and open it on Saturday the 14th.
Gotcha. And then April 10th or 7th or 10th or something like that, that's when you head to Oklahoma?
Yeah, the 6th or 7th, whatever that Monday is.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
And so we're looking forward to that. And we've, over the years, we've done a Miriam's hunt out in New Mexico near Raton, and actually between Raton and Folsom. Mm-hmm. And we've had some great times out there. We've not been able to do that for the last couple of years, but would love to be able to do another Miriam's hunt one day. All these birds are special in their own unique way.
Sure,
and,
absolutely.
Miriam's is a beautiful turkey, and it's just fun to be, again, in that kind of an environment, in a mountainous environment that we don't get to see down here at 400 feet of elevation.
Yeah, the whopping elevation of 400 feet. Well, you've got those old swamp gobblers down there in Mississippi. Those are probably some of the hardest turkeys. They've seen the dance before.
Well, they have, and I think truthfully, I think Rios don't get enough credit. I think what gets a lot of Rios and a lot of Miriams killed is just the fact that they're so visible.
Yeah.
And our turkeys are not visible a lot of the time. I mean, we've got what we call field turkeys and what we call woods turkeys, that just tend to like that kind of an environment. So a field turkey down here is pretty hard to hunt sometimes. They'll get out in the middle of a wide open where they can see all around them, and they'll just stay out there, all day long. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And the woods turkeys tend to be, they just tend to be skittish by nature. I've joked that, a couple of the clubs that I hunt on have got turkeys that are very notoriously difficult to hunt, and it's just because they've been hunted for, 40 years. And, I've always joked that those gobblers peck out of a shell, at birth, knowing to run from a hen call.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're just born to be scared, aren't they?
Yeah. And, but they're fun to hunt, and they're fun to listen to. A big mature gobbler hammering in a hardwood hollow is something everybody needs to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I still need my Eastern and my Osceola for my Royal Slam, and so it's I've got a nice year in front of me. I'm gonna at the end of March here go with my nephews to California. I'd go with Jay and Will. We've gone the last 6-7 years, maybe longer, and then I'll come back from that, and I've got going with some friends to the White Mountain Apache for Merriam's, and then I've got a whole slew of Goulds hunters down in Mexico from May 1st to the 15th, so it ought to be another good year. I'm looking forward to it. Our weather here in Phoenix has been just unbelievable. We've been 75 to 80 degrees, seems like, for the last 2 weeks, and so, which is a little bit unseasonably warm for us, but, when it starts warming up, definitely start, getting thinking about turkeys probably at least 30 days, quicker than I should.
Yeah. Well, it's we're looking forward to it as well, and we always kind of start that as soon as duck season closes at the end of January. We start thinking about turkey season, and I told one of my buddies the other day that if I had not been born in the month of February, I would not have much use for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's a tough month for us to get through. Golf course is still too wet, and the weather's still too cold, and it's just kind of a slow month for us that like to be outdoors. But March is coming.
Absolutely. They'll be gobbling here.
The other thing I would say, to anybody who might care to know is that you clearly get paid to do what you do, but you don't do it for a living, and it's not a job to you. It's obvious to me that what you do with your outfitting service, it is it's something you do for enjoyment, and it's a labor of love. And the places that we've gone and turkey hunted in the past, we go in as strangers, but we leave as friends typically, with the folks that we hunt with, and I know and can say that that's what it's been with you.
Absolutely.
And it's just a different environment than when you're going into a commercial hunting operation. where it's all work and it's all business. And that's not what we've ever sought out. And that's clearly not what you deliver. I mean, you take care of the details. The details are going to be right, but you do it in a way that doesn't feel like a commercial hunting operation. It feels like a bunch of buddies getting together and going and enjoying 2 or 3 days together and having success and celebrating that success and then recounting and retelling the memories in the days, ahead. So that's
Absolutely.
what makes
I
it great.
appreciate you saying that. Yeah,
that,
it does. I mean, that's everything. You can have strutting birds and, gobbling their heads off. And if you don't have the camaraderie and you don't have that, fellowship, it's just not the same. And so it's awesome to get with guys that are, live clear across the other part of the, on the other side of the country and get together, never having met them, and just fall right in line, giving each other, grief and, teasing and jawboning back and forth. And, it's, that's what it's all about to me. And so I appreciate you saying that. I am passionate about what I do. I love to turkey hunt and love to hunt and fish in general. So it's always nice having guys that have the same passion, and you guys were a lot of fun to hunt with, and just appreciate you being with us this morning, and wish you the best of success on your hunts coming up. And God bless you, brother.
Same to you. I hope you have a great season, and I hope you'll stay in touch and keep me posted on how it's going. And there's another Goulds hunt in our future. Let me put it that way.
Sounds good. That'll be fun. I look forward to it one of these days. And keep me posted. Send me some text pictures, and we're going to try and keep the blog and keep Facebook and Instagram and keep everything up to date. And we're going to be doing weekly podcasts here and trying to keep everybody updated on how everything's going. So tell Tally hello, and thanks for being with us.
We'll do it. Take care, Jay.
All right. God bless.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
May the 2nd. It's about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. We killed 2 big gobblers this morning, and we've come back into this meadow. We think the birds are using this area, and we've got our big strutter decoy, our Dave Smith strutter out. He's out there spinning around, and we feel like in the next 2 or 3 hours we're going to have some action. So we'll sit back and see what happens. I thought he'd die of starvation standing there tangled up in the decoy strings. Goodness gracious.
Is that 4 birds in one day?
Oh,
Oh my goodness. That I have never seen a show any better than that. That was
Flying
phenomenal.
in.
You talking about an Academy Award.
that's like a Delta airline trip
Oh,
coming in.
I was about to, I couldn't breathe. I was so shook up. That was
When he started-
unbelievable.
When he started spurring the decoy,
Did you hear him drumming?
I did.
Good. Tally's never been able to hear one drumming.
My
so
hearing is so bad, I have never heard one drumming,
He
but
was
I
getting
did. I did when he was standing right here. Yeah, I did. I thought I finally realized that the first time I'd ever heard it.
That was
But
incredible.
when you're 10 yards from him, you can hear it.
Yeah, that's right.
How about them flying over the top?
man.
I mean, 2 different bunches of them
Yeah.
flying in, and the darn and
He lit like a mallard.
and this
I mean,
one-
he just,
he came in and he saw the decoy and he just banked and lit right there and started gobbling.
incredible. He is shot to pieces, too. I still don't have one to mount.
Look at the feathers
I
across
still
there.
don't have one to mount, but hey,
I mean, you sprayed feathers all over
think I
half
hit
an
him.
acre.
he didn't do any flopping, so
No, he didn't.
my goodness. Got a good beard.
Well, guys, that was unbelievable. We got 2 birds this morning on a good roost setup, and we came in this afternoon and put the Dave Smith strutter out and set up. We got in here early. We didn't want to spook any birds, and I heard a hen up on the hill, and the next thing we know, the whole flock flew over on this ridge. And then, Greg, your bird stopped short, I think, when he saw the decoys and landed right there
Yep.
Just landed.
and
Cupped
came right in.
in just like a duck.
We got the,
And he had
He hit the
he had
ground.
fighting on his mind.
oh man,
He hit the ground, and first thing he did, he hit the ground, went into strut and gobbled
yeah, he
Yep.
did.
immediately.
Sure did.
So we got the Mississippi SWAT team here.
And we have swatted him.
Put a herd on these birds. We got 4 birds in one day. 2 this morning, 2 this afternoon. 2 beautiful Goulds gobblers. Congratulations, guys. Awesome job.
Man,
Got
thanks.
some great video,
Great.
great memories.
Thanks, Jay.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to this episode of our podcast on Gould's turkey hunting. You can go to www.gouldsturkeyhunt.com. That's a Gould's turkey specific website devoted all to Gould's turkey. You can also find us at jscottoutdoors.com and follow us on Instagram at jscottoutdoors. We also have a YouTube channel at jscottoutdoors. And we're just very thankful for you guys listening, and look forward to our podcast next week. Thank you.